Okay, let's see what else we have on the docket. Okay. This one comes from Dale on Long Island.
Hi, Dale.
Hey, Dale. When you get premonitions for something, how do they manifest? Do they manifest? Do you get any physical responses through your body? What happens?
Yeah. Okay. First off, it's probably going to be different for everybody. I can only talk about myself. I don't necessarily even call them premonitions.
Mm.
Premonitions, as we think of them, tend to be thought of as visual, where you see something happening.
So that's by definition.
But premonition, by definition, doesn't say anything about being visual. It's about knowing something ahead of time. So we're really talking about the realm of intuition. Okay. Usually I get a feeling first. I call myself clairvoyant empathic, but really if we were to put it in the order of how I experience it, I'm more empathic clairvoyant. Meaning that I'm an empath first. That I feel it. I feel it in my body. It's not emotional. There's a big difference between getting an intuition that is feeling oriented than having an emotional response to something. People really don't understand what the word empathic means, I think. Empathy is when I don't just feel for you, I feel you. That can very well be emotional.
Okay.
But that doesn't necessarily make you able to read somebody. Maybe it's a bit more disciplined is what I'm getting at. That I used to pick up and still can pick up on people's emotions left, right, and center to the point where I don't even know it's them. That's rare now for me. It used to be that way all the time. Which made me a very good friend. Because I would get down in the pit with you. If you were sad, would I be sad with you? I would cry in those tears for you. When we're, however, bringing that into the intuitive part of it, I can get a really strong gut feeling something's not right. I remember, I think it was last year or the year before, I had 3 days in a row where it wasn't constant, but where my leg would shake. I think it was my right leg. And I was like, what the hell's going on? Like, I was like, what is this, neurological? Like, I really didn't know. There was some emotion connected to it because I was worried.
Right, absolutely.
But it was like, and I was like, is it my caffeine intake? What? I mean, I really started doing the Virgo thing. I started going down the checklist. Is that? It was just none of those things felt right. And there was a huge earthquake that happened. And it stopped.
Earthquake?
The earthquake was,
here
I believe it was in Mexico or Mexico City.
Oh, okay.
So it was connected to this continent. It wasn't necessarily, it'd be considered North America. Now, I haven't had that happen since. It's not like I'm an earthquake intuitive. For some reason, I don't know why that was. And I don't know if that was exactly what was going on, but it was definitely something about my root chakra. It was definitely something shifted inside of me that allowed me to interpret that energy and that information in a way where the interpretation became physical, literal.
Okay.
So yes, I can say that it does. But when I'm reading for somebody and I see something, I read somebody at a tarot party last week, and I love me some tarot parties. They stuck me in a basement apartment away from the rest of the party, which is fine. So I read one person at a time at a whole room full of people at once. It's much easier. And this one woman, she didn't want to get read. Her friends talked her into it. She's a very nice lady. I think she was my last reading of the night, which usually the last one is the best one. Sorry, just how it rolls. And I never ask people what they're shuffling for. They just shuffle. But there was a sense when I was reading her that she was in a new relationship. That was in the cards. That was obvious. I was like, you're in a new relationship. She had just gotten engaged. I'm good. My cards are really good too. But I was like, I kept feeling there was somebody in the distance who was trying to stop it. Or who didn't approve or something. And I couldn't put my finger on it. I was like, how do you get along with his mother? She was like, no, his mother adores me. He had never been married before, and he was like in his 50s. So I was like, something's What's going on here? There's a female presence that does not like you, that is skeptical, that is going to try and sabotage this thing. She's like, oh yeah, it's his best friend. Female. They're fishing buddies, and now that I'm with him, he doesn't go fishing with her anymore. Now, there was nothing in the cards. There was nothing she said about, and it wasn't like I saw a woman with a knife. It wasn't visual. It wasn't a clairvoyant thing. But I could tell if this woman was not dealt with, which doesn't mean you have to confront her necessarily, but make sure when you're around her, you watch yourself kind of thing, that she was going to do everything she could to break up this relationship.
So was it visually feeling a woman?
It was a feeling. It was like somebody else was in the room. I didn't see them. They weren't in the room. They were in the relationship. There was somebody else in the relationship to the point where
I felt a feminine energy.
I could feel it. I knew it was a woman.
And you could also feel that the fact that they wanted to sabotage it.
And that, see, this is why premonitions can't be written in stone, because you can change the script. Not usually on the level of form, but this is how I guided her through it. I said, if you can understand what pain this woman is in, that she feels like she is losing her best friend, and from her point of view, she is losing her best friend. If you can deal with that and not hate her, you have a much better road ahead of you with this woman. Right. And so, can't change the woman I don't know, began to shift her perception. And by the way, this other woman, she told me, was married. So she might have wanted to be with this guy but couldn't because she was already married and blah, 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 blah.
And since he was single, it sort of made it safe, but she was married and wasn't going to commit.
Right. And now we really can't be together. And all of that was in the room while I was reading. Now, it's interesting. It was actually in the woman I was reading. It was in her energy field.
So then she has to deal with her husband, maybe, who she's not getting along with.
Yep. And then that shifts it. So am I going to say every premonition comes true and manifests? Because the question was, how does it manifest? It doesn't always.
Well, you did. It as a feeling.
As a feeling, but in terms of in this woman's history, hopefully it won't manifest the way you know what I mean? That's the whole point of getting a reading. This is why I don't believe in readers being predictors. We indicate. We say, if things continue along this route, this is what I see. Change the route.
So hopefully a month down the line, if you would read the woman again with the same question that she had, that maybe the cards would shift it because there has been a change in her perception.
We would hope, and that hopefully she sits down with her man and says, look,
right,
I love you. Is she going to be a problem? And if she is a problem, are you prepared to choose? Which can be a nightmare question to ask.
Right. You can't stop a guy from going fishing. Now, how does the premonition, though, if it's something for yourself, how does that manifest? Good or not so good?
I don't get them for myself almost at all. What I get, there are 3 levels of intuition. We've talked about this before in podcasts. I tend to start with a real simple turn left, turn right, do this, don't do this.
The gut, sort of.
And the only reason I can say it's undeniable is because I've learned to listen to it. It is very deniable. You can be distracted away from it. You cannot trust it, all these things. But for me, it's something's not right here. When I'm at the center in Sayville, at the Silver Broom, I can be in a reading with somebody, and you know my office. I can look out that little window and see people walk in the door. And there have been times where I have seen somebody walk in the door and something said, stop the reading right now and go out and go stand with Kathy.
Right.
And sure enough, I go out there. I say, excuse me, I'll be right back.